So I want to get into the importance of using or applying brackets when you want to change quoted material, especially when you want to make sure that your your statement, your sentence, along with the quoted material, still represents a grammatical unit. So it doesn't matter how you integrate the material or what you choose to integrate in terms of taking information from the source, you still have the task of ensuring that the full sentence, which could represent your statement along with the quoted material, represents a fully grammatical sentence. And just because you add a punctuation mark at the end does not mean that it is a full sentence. It still needs to represent a complete thought. So I'm going to read this, and then we're going to look at how to apply brackets. There is a general rule for using brackets when changing quoted material. To ensure the quote is grammatically correct, you may use brackets to alter the quote. Be sure, however, to maintain the original intent of the quote. So here's a screenshot from the source, Self-Controlling Grit, Related but Separable Determinants of Success. And as you can remember, it is about how goals are organized. And the authors reference the hierarchical goal framework and then also define it in terms of how the goals are organized. So this is the screenshot. And so now we're going to look at the original quote, and we are placing quotations quotation marks around the quote to ensure that we know that these words here that we see on this page represent, or they come from or derive from the words of a particular source. So we always need to make sure that we add quotation marks. We always need to make sure whatever we do at the beginning of the sentence line is will tell us what to do at the end of the sentence line. So if we begin this sentence with Duckworth and Gross, we don't need their names here. But if we don't begin this sentence or this quoted material with Duckworth and Gross, then we need it here plus the page number. And then of course the punctuation mark goes after the last parentheses. So this quoted material that we want to use is word for word, but as you can see, it is not actually not grammatical in terms of the fact that we know that every sentence begins with a capital letter. So if we integrated this just within the middle of a sentence, we wouldn't need to capitalize the W here. Like if we said Duckworth and Gross said that, we assume that goals are typically organized hierarchically, then we wouldn't need to capitalize the we. But if we said Duckworth and Gross, comma, Duckworth and Gross says, comma, then we would need to capitalize the W. So let's use brackets. Use of brackets will ensure the quote you integrate into your paper is grammatically correct. All sentences should begin with a capital letter as a rule. And so here's the quoted text. We have add brackets. So we assume that goals are typically organized hierarchically, with lower order goals serving higher order goals. Lower order goals are more numerous, context specific, short term, and substitutable, whereas higher order goals are typically fewer in number, more abstract, more enduring, and more important to the individual. So we're taking that full sentence, and to ensure that the sentence or the quoted material is still grammatically correct, we added the brackets around the W. So let's look at another. Say, for instance, we don't really care about the we assume that part, and we really wanted to start with goals are typically organized hierarchically. Then we don't need anything before that in terms of ellipses or anything like that. We just need to apply brackets. And so we can start from this point here. Goals are typically organized hierarchically. Um, Add brackets to the G, and then now it's grammatically correct. So those are two examples. So let's look at a side by side comparison. So here's the original quote. We assume that goals are typically organized, so it's in lowercase, but we have added quotation marks as well as a citation with punctuation. So the first example, we want to start from we assume, and it always depends upon where you want to start in terms of how you want to integrate the quote within your paper. And so we want to start with we assume that. And so therefore we make sure to apply brackets to the W to ensure that the full sentence is grammatically correct. Well, we could also start in another way. We could say, I don't want to start with we assume that, and I just want to do a quick definition and say, I really want to start goals are typically organized hierarchically. Then we can do that as well and add the brackets to the G, and then it is a fully full grammatical sentence. Okay. So again, this is adding brackets to change quoted material, which means we are actually altering the quote, but we're not changing it so much to the point that we cannot maintain the original intent of the quote. And the original intent of the quote is to define hierarchical goal framework and what it means in terms of lower order goals serving higher order goals. And then we apply brackets to make sure that the sentence is grammatically correct. And it depends on where we want to start in the quoted material, whether or not we add brackets to a particular word or letter. And then we have this example here.